Welcome to another edition of the Retire As You Desire show. And I've got a great friend, a great guest, and an incredible entrepreneur here to share a story with us. Adrian Madero, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you. I'm just excited to be invited here.
Oh my God. This was like really long overdue. And the thing is, like, stories are so important. You see this suit I'm wearing? My wife and I were on our honeymoon. We were in Ginza in Tokyo, the nicest areas like the Magnificent Mile in Chicago or Fifth Avenue in New York. And I saw this suit in the window. I was like, I took a picture of the fabric and I brought it back to your store. I'm like, Adrian, look at this. He goes, oh, he pulled out a book. He goes, it's right here. He goes, we could take care of this for you. Lo and behold, I'm wearing it today. He's the man, the myth, the legend here. So, Adrian, entrepreneurship. I really want to jump into this and get as much content as possible into this show because your story is absolutely amazing. At what age did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur and jump into this crazy world that we live in?
Wow, I don't think I've ever taken the time to see what age kind of like triggered that want to be an entrepreneur. But I think now that I think of it, I never had an option. It was always embedded in the fabric of my family. My dad comes from a very entrepreneurial family. He's an entrepreneur. As you know, he and his brother started a company that has been pretty successful. But they always pushed us, since we were very young, to be entrepreneurs ourselves, not to be working for the family or working for just a big corporation. They always wanted to push us to start, try new things, and fail along the way, but always with that in mind of like, hey, you can build something yourself. So I don't think it was ever an option. They always pushed us also to work at other companies, but always in mind that the end goal is like, you got to start something yourself, you got to create something, partner with someone that complements you so you can kind of grow and help you grow in a better way. But it's since the inception, to be honest. I always had that bug since very, very young. I think my first venture was during primary school. I was playing soccer. And I was a member of a magazine called Eurosports. And they had a couple of articles, but mostly they were selling soccer attire, cleats, shirts, jerseys. And I grew up in Mexico. So back in Mexico, at that time, this was maybe 02, 03, 04. There weren't enough stores to sell all of that. There were selected stores, and they had the selected items, but you couldn't get the number 23 jersey or number 7 Beckham, right? Or the Iker Casillas away jersey. You couldn't get those. So I was a member of that magazine, and what I started doing is I started selling it to my friends.
No way.
So I bought the Beckham cleats, I remember exactly, the champagne color in 02, the ones he wore at the World Cup. And I got to the practice, and everyone's like, where do you get those? They don't sell those in Mexico at that time. You could have get them maybe in Monterrey or Mexico City, but not in my hometown. So what I started doing is like, all right, here's the magazine, circle what you want, you pay me in cash. I go use my mom's or my dad's credit card. I paid them in cash. But then, since I was a member of that magazine, there was a spread that they give you a discount. So I took that discount and I made a little bit of money. But then I saw that the margins were so low that I started like just saying like, okay, this is my catalog and this is the Eurosports catalog. I bump up the prices a little bit. So I started kind of like negotiating, and I essentially became a commercializer of soccer goods at a very low level. But that's where I started to kind of start negotiating and trying to push products with a little bit more margins, right? I had more discounts on Adidas and on Nike. So, hey, what do you think about this one instead of that one? And yeah, that was my first business venture, essentially.
Oh my God, you had it as a kid.
I had it as a kid, yeah.
Wow. Do you think anyone could become an entrepreneur?
No.
You don't think anyone, if they just love something, it's got to be ingrained in your blood?
Anyone, if they love it, anyone can become an entrepreneur with the right team around them.
Ooh.
No one can solo it. You cannot go and just say, hey, I'm going to do it. people that are solo entrepreneurs need a certain type of grit and a certain time of determination, and just that I don't care about anything but this, that type of focus, right? I don't think I can be that type of entrepreneur. I've always been partnered. I always partner with people that are better than me or that have different skills than me, and that way we kind of potentialize our skills and have a better outcome. But still, you need that personality to accept constant failure and rejection, and that determination to keep on going. And I don't think everyone has that. Maybe if you partner with someone that can help you lift you in your bad times, but I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone.
How young were you when your parents taught you it's okay to fail? Do you remember any of this? Because you're saying this multiple times, and I'm 1,000,000% aligned with you. You have to be willing to fail, get over the fear of rejection, to step out on the ledge and go for it. But when did you learn it's okay to fail? I mean, was that just ingrained in your family? Because I feel like that's the hardest thing of starting something, is just the fear of rejection.
I don't know if that was taught to me, or if it was just like by osmosis of how my upbringing, it just came up. I don't know. Or by the nature of me being the youngest child. So I had a big brother. Right. I have a big sister and a big brother. So you always play with them, you always lose. So you try again, you try again, you try again. So maybe you're building up that grit since you're very, very young. My brother's personality is very different than mine. He is a trailblazer.
Really?
We're so different. Even though we're brought up in the same household, but he was the one who had to pave the way so that I could walk behind him, right? So I was always, so inside my home, the four walls of my home, I was losing, right, and getting roughed up by my brother, and him being always like coming up on top. But outside my home, no one would mess with me because I had a big brother, and he would show me the way, and he would teach me a lot. So, and I don't think he did it intentionally or really like, oh, I'm going to teach him a lesson and then show him this or that, or it was just in him, right? He was a protector, and my sister is that protector as well. But inside, they were teaching me a lot of lessons. So I failed a lot inside so that I could not fail outside.
Well, you and your brother are partnering on quite a few ventures, right? I mean, your childhood has probably brought you guys together, and your different skill sets.
Correct.
Have allowed you guys to grow multiple different types of businesses. What's that journey been like to really excel with your brother and even struggle at times? Because COVID, things happen to every business, right? But you guys have really excelled in so many different areas. How have you guys done that? It's
a beautiful relationship. We've partnered in many businesses that we've been very successful, and the ones that we failed also. So we always share those, because success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody claims the failure. It's not like, oh, sorry that I invited you to this project, brother. It's on me. It's like, oh, we effed it up, on to the next one. But if it's a good project and we succeed, it's like, yeah, we did good, right? We did good. But no, it's a good relationship. But this is, again, it was never an option. My dad has a business with his brothers, and they have been, and they're so different between them as well. But they have grown this company on imagination. They are extremely successful, but you see them at the board meeting, and this is something I admire of them, because I don't think my brother and I are at that point. And me and my sister, way further from that point. I could never have a relationship with that with my sister, because they are so tough against each other in the board meeting, and they question each other's decisions so hard. And why did you do this? We should be better at that and that. And they go at it at the board meeting. After the board meeting is done, they have a tradition that after the board meeting is done, they go and have lunch with my grandma like nothing happened. Wow. My generation, we need to build that toughness And that reflex of separating family and business, even though they're intertwined, separating that, because family's family and business is business. Family comes first. And my dad's generation really masters that. They are so tough with each other. They really push each other to be better. But then, curtains down, this is not business anymore. This is family. And they go and watch a soccer game, a football game, go have lunch with grandma, and like nothing happened. My generation, we need to really learn from that, because we hold a little bit more of like, why is he pushing me so hard? He's being extremely hard with me. It's not fair. And you keep that. We should learn to really digest that, take what we need to get the good input, and move on. Because they have shown us that it's really possible. So me and my brother, we're a little bit softer on each other.
Really?
Yeah, we don't go that hard. We are like, hey, it's okay. We'll get it next time. It's all right. Even though we might mess up, we don't go as hard. So I think it's something that we need to start kind of developing without breaking the relationship.
And just cultivating that a little bit more. So
Yeah.
that, you know what? It's okay to be honest with me. Just tell me the truth.
Yes.
So we could have a better venture moving forward.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Things like that take time. I mean, I'm sure even with your father and the brothers, that took time. The first time someone spoke up, it's like, whoa. Like,
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it
probably
did.
interesting, right?
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, well, stick with us. Stay tuned after the break. Adrian's going to be sharing some more incredible stories. He was just on the Forbes list. Like, we have so many great things to talk about, so stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show.
If you're a founder of a company and you need someone to help you, back you up, raise capital, give a little bit of equity away, but in return you're getting capital, structure, network, people opening doors for you, financing, relationship with the banks, all that.
Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. And we have the incredible entrepreneur, Adrian Madera, on the show with us today. And Adrian, in the last segment, we talked a lot about family business. We talked a lot about the family, great like processes and great structure that you guys have created. But what's your journey like? How did you, after like college and after graduating, what was your entrepreneurial journey like? How did that get started?
So let's take it back to when I was in college in Monterrey. I was studying there, and as soon as I graduated, there was a mechanism that the family group had to, again, incentivize entrepreneurship within the family. It was called the Fund of the Second Generation, or the Second Generation Fund. And it was essentially a Shark Tank that once a year they had funds that they were going to allocate for projects of the second generation. So me, my brother, and my cousins. So it was like a competition. Some years there was only a couple of projects submitted, but for example, a cousin of mine opened like a spa or a foot company, like for podiatrists or something like that. My brother funded a project for a salad company that then he sold. Another cousin opened dry cleaners, and that's when I graduate, I submitted the bid to fund the purchase of Sur Mesure.
Hey.
So I wanted to buy a third of Sur Mesure, and so what ended up happening is I put the project together. Sur Mesure at the moment, it was a Canadian-only company with locations in Quebec and in Montreal. So I met with the brothers, the founders, which are now our partners, the Theriault brothers. Met with them, and I said, like, okay, I like this project. I see a lot of legs. I think this can grow. I went back to the family, presented in the fund of the second generation, but the ticket was a little bit bigger than the usual transaction there. So what they ended up saying is like, all right, we'll invest as a company. Instead of the fund, we'll invest as a company. So they essentially backed my project. So we ended up buying a third of the company, and within months, I moved to Quebec City. I kind of learned the ropes of Sur Mesure, and I started opening the new stores. So I moved to Toronto to open Mississauga. I moved to Pittsburgh. I moved here to Chicago, opened this store. We opened the one in Laval, which is a second Montreal store, and started all the efforts to grow. So I was essentially the expansion director. I did that for about 5-6 years. And at the moment, I was also doing a master's in Northwestern. So I graduate, and then COVID hits, and the perfect storm, right?
Right.
So at the moment, Surmister was growing. I was not thinking like, what is next for me? I was at Surmister, and that was my job. But then COVID happened, so no offices, right? Everyone's home office, so no one's wearing a suit, and no weddings, which are our two biggest markets. So we decide to take a step back. Company, for it to survive, we needed like the top salaries to kind of save them. So what we ended up doing is the two brothers and myself, we took a step back, and we brought in new people, but mostly we brought up employees into leadership positions, and it was great decision.
Really?
Surmister now is super strong. Now the brothers are back. After a couple of years away, they are back into leadership positions. I'm only part of the board. But then from there, I graduate from Northwestern, and I got a job at Legends, which is a private equity-backed company that works in sports and entertainment. They finance stadiums, they operate stadiums, they sell sponsorship and partnerships for the big teams and big stadiums and colleges, and just they essentially run the sports industry behind it. I mean, they are massive, and it's owned by the Steinbrenner family, which is their owners of the Yankees.
Oh, the Yankees.
Jerry Jones and Sixth Street Capital. Those are like the three main investors. So I was there for a couple of years. Good run. I loved it, and I loved the space. Yeah. Just being in sports.
I mean, you've always been into sports ever since a kid. I mean, how many World Cups have you been to?
Ooh. About 5, yeah. 4 or 5.
Yeah, a lot. You know, sports is ingrained in who you are and your DNA, on top of dressing well.
Thank you.
The great combo.
And now we're going to have the World Cup here. So I want to, for this World Cup, I want to go to a game in Canada, one in Mexico, and one in the U.S.
You have to. It's a must.
Yeah.
So with the World Cup coming, who do you want to see play the most? Do you think Ronaldo's going to play? Do you think Messi's going to play?
I think Messi for sure is going to play. I think they are kind of building everything around him so that he could be the centerpiece, like his going away tour. That would be like his going away party. Ronaldo, let's remember, he's a little older than Messi, so I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. In the Euros, I think it was a little bit of an underwhelming performance, so I don't know if he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's unfortunate, but that's life. That's life. What's it like working in the private equity world? I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what it's like, what it means. I'm still learning about it, and just the space in general. What has that transition been like, going from you're the owner-operator, you're opening up new stores, to going to a different environment, but it's super entrepreneurial as well? What's that change? What was the change like?
I think the space is very broad, and there's very different ways and variants of private equity, right? So currently, I am a part of the Fonseca Group, which is a sports agency / private equity firm.
Right.
What we do essentially is structure deals. Any deal that there's two ways of representing an athlete, right? On-field and off-field representation. On-field representation is their contract. Whatever LeBron makes a year, the agent takes a cut, and that's his salary that the team pays him. Okay. Off-field representation is all the sponsorship. But Michael Jordan kind of changed the game when he requested equity or revenue share from Nike. Now a lot of athletes want to do that.
Of course.
So that is kind of where we play. That's where we fit the best in our agencies. What we do is we structure deals for athletes that normal sponsorship deals, off-field representation, we do that. But our bread and butter is whenever there's a revenue share or an equity component to it, we help structure those deals. We help organize those deals into valuation. How much sweat equity is he going to put in? Is he going to put in some capital into the deal, or it's just going to be the usage of his image, right? How much is that worth? How the company is valued? Because most of the time, those companies that take that type of deal are up-and-coming companies, right? They're not well-established companies. You're not going to get with Gatorade and say, hey, I want a piece of Gatorade.
Probably not.
PepsiCo's going to say no, thank you. So it's the up and coming companies that want that exposure of the brand that the athlete is, but how are you valued? So it's a little bit of an interesting deal. So that's the space we play at. We're also brands and companies and projects hire us to raise capital for them, so that we can bring in, because of our network, right? We can bring in capital that makes us splash. Not only contributes to the cap table, but there's also a marketing component to it. It's different for a project that someone that invests in your podcast, in your platform, your studio, just a regular firm, right, or a VC company, than, let's say, a Cub player here in Chicago or a Bulls player invests in you. That gives you a little bit more notoriety, right? A little bit more marketing behind it. So that's something that's a value added. We can bring institutional money, but we can also bring shiny money.
Yeah, that's exciting, because you have a lot more flexibility that way too, to grow the product, to grow the brand that you're working on. And having that one athlete or that one celebrity, like look at Mint Mobile. Look, that's a huge thing that Ryan Reynolds did. He said, you know what, I'm going to do my time and use that as equity. And that's like an equivalent of $1 million, I think it was. And they've grown tremendously, and his net worth has grown by hundreds of millions of dollars because of his sponsorship that way. Are you seeing that the private equity world is growing more organically this way? Or do you think it's still more old school way of doing things, of just trying to work with the old school brands, the bigger brands, or is it the up and coming things that are going to help grow?
They are adapting with the times. I mean, there's traditional private equity firms that only do consumer packaged goods, and they buy the smaller companies and have operational efficiencies, find them and bring them up, right? There's private equity firms that stay in their own lane of restaurants, right? Up and coming brands will come in, will make you better, more efficient, more this, more that, and bring you up. And there's other firms that are just pivoting into, okay, what can we do with crypto? What can we do with this? So they can get more creative. I think private equity, again, it's such a broad term that there are firms that are doing completely opposite things and being extremely successful in their own right. So I think you also have the brightest minds in that space. So it's going to continue evolving and growing. And from every point of view, I think everyone is winning. If you're a founder of a company and you need someone to help you, back you up, raise capital, give a little bit of equity away, but in return, you're getting capital, structure, network, people opening doors for you, financing, relationship with the banks, all that they can provide. So as a founder, you're like, oh yeah, I will do it.
Right.
So it's just getting to the right valuation, obviously, but it's sometimes private equity might get a bad rep, but I think it's an instrument that should be in top of mind of a lot of people starting, or if they want to scale up a business, maybe it's time to open that door.
And I think in the next segment, we should talk more about partnerships, because with the private equity, even your investment advisor or anything like that, you need to partner with people who have skill sets, your accountant, your lawyer, doesn't matter, right? Your real estate people, because I know you love real estate too. You need partnerships. You need people to help you go through the whole entire journey. I think we should hop into that in the next segment. So stay tuned to the Retire As You Desire show. Adrian Madero, the man, the myth, the legends, here with us today. Stay tuned.
Since we invested, Vincent had a vision, one of my partners.
Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We have Adrian Madero here. We're talking about business, entrepreneurship. We're going to hop into partnerships now and see why it's okay to partner with other people. A lot of people have trust issues, or they don't want to really believe in other people. That's one of the biggest mistakes you can make jumping into the entrepreneurial world. Now, you and your brother have a very special relationship, probably more special than a lot of families. When you guys are talking about your restaurants or different groups that you're working on, or even like the recycling company that you guys did in Mexico, like I remember all these things. What are some of the biggest obstacles that you've overcome over the years to figure out your strengths and figure out how to make these companies work as efficiently as possible? I think everyone needs to listen to this.
I'm going to say the cliche part, right? You need to partner with someone that complements you and that is better than. I think my brother and I, we really complement each other. So that came naturally. But when it's us two, right? And then who are we going to partner with? Because sometimes we partner with other people. It's not only him and I, because he has a full-time job. He's the director of the restaurant division of my family's. And I'm working here with the Fonseca Group. We have 2-hour time difference. He lives in Mexico in Chihuahua. I'm here. So sometimes some project that we're doing in Mexico City, we need a local partner. Right? So sometimes, for example, it's from an operational perspective. Who are we going to bring in our boxing venture?
Yes. Oh, yes.
2M Promotions. We have boxers that we promote. Who are we going to partner with? Well, we love boxing. We don't have the time. And to be honest, we don't have all the know-how. We've been acquiring it through the years, but we need someone that knows the nitty-gritty, the ins and outs of the business. So we partnered with Rafa Soto. He's now a super good friend of mine, but at the beginning he was a partner. He brings in expertise, know-how, know-who inside of the industry, which is a small industry, and he brings fighters to us. So he's like, hey, there's a fighter over there that is unrepresented. His deal's about to be done. Let's go and sign him. Let's bring him over. So he is actually like our inside person. So for us, it was a no-brainer. Go and partner with him. For example, with the recycling venture that we did in Mexico, it was already a company that existed. They needed capital to grow. And they invited my brother and I, but then what my brother and I did is like, okay, we could take that package or we could take this whole package and split it even smaller so that we can bring in smaller partners that bring know-how, know-who, maybe a contract here or there. They could open a couple of doors. So that was essentially, they put capital in, but they also put in their Rolodex, right? Like, I can open a door here or there.
Sweat equity, basically.
Correct.
They're doing the work.
Correct. So sometimes it doesn't work. With the recycling venture, it was very good for the first year, good for the second year, then some operational issues, then the smaller partners that we had. And one of the main partners started getting other projects that were more important in their priorities. So they start kind of like paying less attention to that project. How do you manage that? How can you, as a partner, minority partner at the time, how can you go and tell him, hey, spend more time in the project when I'm spending 0 time in the project? So it's picking the projects correctly. And to be honest, you cannot be spread so thin. My brother and I, and my dad taught us this. He told us, you cannot catch them all. It's like, there's a new project that they're inviting me. There's a new opportunity here. Let's invest here. Let's do that. You cannot catch them all. And we learned the hard way because we failed plenty. Plenty. So it's picking the projects correctly and then picking the partners correctly as well.
So what's your investment criteria now? Have you set one with your brother or maybe even your sister if she's involved with you guys? Have you guys like set your own, like for this generation, here's our criteria?
So we don't have a criteria for the projects, but for example, we started a small fund here in Chicago that we are acquiring real estate, mixed use developments and commercial real estate. My sister's part of that too.
Nice.
So I set the criteria because I am the manager of the fund, right? So what we do is we invest from assets from this amount to this amount. So we have our gap there that we need to be within. We need to hit at least 8.5 or 9 of cap rate in order to invest. And it needs to generate X amount of cash flow monthly because we are only acquiring cash flow positive since day one.
Smart.
Assets, fully leased, fully stabilized, super low risk. That's what we're doing. We did a couple. It ended up being well. So we said, okay, we're ready to take the next step, which is bring in outside.
Nice. Very
So
good.
we're bringing in partners now. And what we're adding a lot of value to our investors because they are foreign nationals. They're Mexicans.
Okay.
They cannot get a credit here. They have accounts here, bank accounts and everything, but they're not citizens. So the banks wouldn't lend them for a project that size or a project of that type. So what I'm doing is the fund gets the loan, but we finance a project, part the fund and part with our LPs, right? So the GP is us, and we have LPs. They're super happy with it. We've done that about 4 times now.
Nice.
4 different projects here in Chicago, and we've been doing good. We're constantly looking for another deal. Again, it's not a hands-off project because I'm super invested in it, but it takes my time for due diligence, looking at the right location, but again, partnering. I have a great broker that he knows my needs. He knows what type of properties we fund.
Another partner.
Yes, another partner. Yeah. His name is Mehdi Mova. He works with Compass. I'm plugging him right now. But he knows exactly what we need. So he only sends those types of properties, and then he goes and looks at him. He vets it. Is like, I think you'll be interested in this one. So now I go, look at it, make an inspection, put in an LOI, and then we, again, partners, great lawyers behind us. We have a great inspection group behind us. And that way we kind of streamline the process through outsourcing those services so it doesn't take a lot of my time.
Totally.
So in that way, I can have a tight operation, but without taking too much of my time. We're good at delegating that. So yeah, we've been growing steadily in the real estate world.
Real estate's great. It's really great, especially when you could accelerate depreciation, become a real estate professional. You have huge tax opportunities to save money, especially on other income sources. Huge. Could be absolutely huge. Now, I want to talk about the article that was just written about you, your Surmisur journey, Forbes. We all know Forbes. How did this come about? This is an incredible achievement for you, Adrian.
So the article that Forbes wrote an article on HDR and Grupo Emma, which HDR, it's the division of restaurants that my brother runs. And then they wrote an article about Chihuahua, that there's something abnormal going on in Chihuahua. It was a white paper article. And they said that there's just something going on here. There's a lot of families with a lot of entrepreneurial spirit just growing, becoming public companies or becoming just huge companies and players in different spaces. And there's something going on in Chihuahua. And I think that was the title of the article. There's something going on in Chihuahua. And there was this person his name is René Lankenau. He writes long form articles about entrepreneurship and business. And he was diving deep into each company of Chihuahua that was mentioned in that article. So he called a cousin of mine and said, like, can you put me in touch with the person in charge of Surmisur? And we just sat down for a couple of hours, and he wrote an article on kind of like my journey and how we came to invest in Surmisur and how it was my project. It was too big for the fund of the second generation. It ended up being Emma's project backing me. Like, they essentially made me, all right, you're the champion of this project, but we're going to be backing you. And that, in a way, provided a lot of structure to it. It was very different than if I would have just come and invested in Surmisur.
I want to talk about what you've done inside of Surmisur to bring that structure. And because when you guys actually create a suit for someone or a shirt, you have special processes.
Since we invested, Vincent had a vision, one of my partners. He had a vision of doing a back-end solution because it was way too labor intensive.
Okay.
There's so many details in a suit. The thread, the button, the lining, the measurements. So the CMT at the end of the day needs to be in a code so that they can scan that and they know exactly what it is. So we ended up investing a lot of the funds that when I put the capital into a platform to be more efficient. But now it's a back-end solution, all in one platform for anyone that does made to measure. We bring you, let's say you want to open tomorrow a Billy's Suits. You plug in our solution, you already have suppliers, you already have a manufacturer, you already have UPS accounts or FedEx accounts, everything. And since Surmacer has such a big volume and MTM has a bigger volume because they have a lot of clients, their prices are way lower.
You took COVID into something that really created a huge opportunity for you. And then you grew this other, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
So COVID was a nightmare for a couple of months. And then there was actually a book written about it. It's called Made to Deliver.
Okay.
I recommend you read it.
I would
Actually,
love
the
to.
book starts in my wedding, which was March 14th, 2020, one day before Trump shut the country.
Right.
So the book starts in my wedding, and then it's the journey of how the brothers survived the COVID wave in the company and how they switched that into a huge success. It's a very good book.
All right, we're going to have to check that out. Stay tuned to the Retires Who Desire show. We have more great segments coming your way. Welcome back to the Retires You Desire show. Adrian Medeiros here, the incredible entrepreneur sharing his amazing story. Thank you for staying with us for the whole entire show. Now, Adrian, your life has changed pretty significantly over the past couple of years because of your daughter coming into this world. I remember even when you got married, now you have your daughter. How has your time management changed? Because you have businesses in Chihuahua, Canada, all over the world essentially at this point, and you're very young. How in the world do you manage your time? Because it's hard enough for people juggling kids and everything else, and Anna works a ton.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
So it's an adapting period for sure. You need to have priorities really well set, and to be honest, it's a teamwork. Anna and I, we struggled for a bit because she works a lot. I would say she even works harder than I do. She is just incredible and super disciplined and very structured, which I am not. I learned from her. I was a guy that had 5 or 6 things at the same time, working on them at the same time, and eventually I'll MacGyver it and I'll figure it out.
Yep.
She is doing one thing, finishes, next thing, finishes, next thing. So I kind of learned a little bit from her to be a little bit more structured and calendar. From this hour to this hour, I'm going to do this. And then we need to have schedules, very set schedules now, because our daughter is at daycare, right? So you pick her up at this hour, you do this at this hour. Loretta has ballet at this hour. She wakes up at that hour and she eats, naps. She has a really rigid schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Babies have schedules. So we ended up doing our schedule around her.
Right.
And just kind of figuring out how to do it on the fly. I mean, there's no manual that they have for it. I mean, there's a lot, but each life is different, and each person has different responsibilities and different time commitments. So a lot of sacrifices, obviously. You can't go out as much with the boys anymore. You can't golf on the weekends anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I sacrificed completely golf. I used to golf once or twice a week. Never got good at it. But now I've played golf since Loretta was born, maybe 4 times. That's it.
It's the same way with us. I've golfed maybe a handful of times in the past 5 years. You can't spend 6 hours from traveling and golfing, the whole thing.
And then show up home super tired.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here's a lot of chores, here's the babies, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair. It's not worth it. I mean, it's a choice of time. And plus, women are much better multitaskers than men. It's proven.
I agree. I agree.
But my wife is so much better at that than
If
I
I'm
am.
multitasking, I do everything half.
Yeah, because you're not focused on one thing. That's sort of like a man thing. It's like you focus on one thing and you get it done. And
My goal is to start playing golf again. I need to get
Really?
structured and organized enough so that I can fit golf into either a weekday or a weekend. But I need to get better at being very rigid with my calendar.
well, I want to talk about this because this really correlates to what I do for a living, is helping people figure out their retirement and time management, because the money is a time multiplier. The money is used to be solving problems,
Yep.
to have people help you with the things that you're not good at.
Mhm.
That's the whole purpose of the money. When you get to that point, you're able to go golf, or you're able to, get the boat or do the vacation house or go to Europe. All those little things is just understanding every single day. I did 17 million things, but here's the 3 things that I love doing. If I could just create a schedule where I'm just doing these things, then you free yourself up. That's what I've learned as being an entrepreneur and being a father, a husband. Doing less is more. Less is 1,000,000% more. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it just clicked. I need to schedule it a couple of weeks ahead, golf time, and figure out how I'm going to honor that commitment playing golf.
There we go.
That week.
There we go.
That's how I need to do it. Instead of like, oh, if I have time, I'll do it. I'll never have.
It's never going to happen because you don't prioritize it. It's just like money. When you prioritize like watches or
So are you
food,
telling me that golf is priority now?
It's
I love
priority.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Sorry, Anna. I mean, we used to play soccer on Monday nights. Remember that?
Yep.
At some point, I got to a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. We had 10:30 games. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The games were at 10:30 at night. I have to get up and work. I have a baby. It's like if the kid wakes up at 2 a.m, you're exhausted.
Yeah, it's tough.
Prioritizing those things is so important. And for the folks who, are not entrepreneurs yet, or if they want to become entrepreneurs, that's the biggest thing. When you start your company, you're going to be all over the place, and you have to accept that. But as your company grows and as you're making money, use that money to get other people in the door, as you have, and you've seen a ton of success with that. Just like with Sir Mister, like you guys stepped back, you really gave other people great responsibilities. Things are thriving now. That's the big thing. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start their company, but they're not sure on whether they should hire first or focus on sales first? Like, what are the parameters for what you do when you start a project?
Ooh, I think it's case by case, but for sure, something that you need to have in the top of your mind is extreme focus on the goal. Go get it. Go get it, go get it, go get it. And then once you're stabilized or once you're ramping up, it depends on which stage you are, but learn how to delegate to the right people. Surround yourself again, partner or hire people that are better than you, people that are complementary to you, and learn how to delegate. You cannot do it all. To be honest, it came naturally to me. I am not a do-it-all kind of, my type of personality is I want to be involved in everything.
Okay.
But I'm not a perfectionist. It's fine. If I don't do it, it's okay. You can figure it out. I'm not the type of personality that I need to start and finish this. I can start, then delegate, finish it. Oh, it's not exactly how I wanted it. It's okay. It still works. No worries. On to the next thing.
80% is good enough.
80% is good enough.
Yeah.
As long as someone else is doing the 20%,
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
That's perfect. That's really perfect.
But there's other entrepreneurs that I'm like, that would be sacrilege for them.
Oh, totally.
I need to do everything, and everything needs to be perfect, and I'm not that type of personality.
I think things don't work very well that way. Also, I don't know. It's just a personal opinion.
Well, it's harder to scale up if you're doing everything, right? So I rather be a little bit more spread, but covering more area, even though it's maybe a thinner layer, but I'm covering a little bit.
So for the people who are watching the show who are successful, they're doing well, they may be afraid to go spend money or do things for themselves. How do you celebrate your wins?
Ooh, that's a trick question because you know how I do. I share a passion with you, which is horology. Yeah. I love watches. But my first watch was given to me by my first nice watch that was worthy of recognition was given to me by my parents when I graduated college. And I've loved watches since way before that, but I never got one. So it was too expensive. So my parents saved the moment for whenever I graduated and they gave me one. So for me now, it's every time there's a big milestone, I get a watch. Yeah. So, and I even remember it. I have a list. Like, okay, this watch was when we opened store number 5 for Swimmers. This watch was when I got married. This watch was when this happened. So big milestones represent a watch in my life.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good and a bad thing because then you can never get rid of them.
That's so true.
Because they have you have an emotional attachment to it. But it's also a motivator. Because right now I have a watch. We already discussed
Yeah.
this, that I have an eye for it and I really want it. I really want to get it. But I cannot just go and put it on the credit card, or I cannot just go and buy it because I haven't accomplished what I set the goal to.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part
So
of
it's financial discipline, but also not cheating yourself on, oh, I'm just gonna go get it.
Totally.
Because then it's gonna lose that value, right? It doesn't have that sentimental value, and it doesn't hit the same way. So I'll let you know whenever I get that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, setting goals is fun because you need to motivate yourself. You know, willpower doesn't work. It doesn't last. I mean, yes, you can start your company, you could even push for a year. Your willpower won't be there. Those are the habits and the discipline mechanisms that you must incorporate in your life, because willpower vanishes. It's not a thing, right? It's a spur of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because some days you just wake up and you're so motivated.
Oh,
I'm gonna go get it. This is perfect. Everything's working out. Sun is shining. And some days you're not gonna have it, but you need to show up.
How do you show up when you're not feeling well, or you didn't sleep well, or you have a night out with the guys and you didn't sleep as well as you normally would? How do you motivate yourself and stay disciplined?
It's the responsibility of bringing food to the table of your family.
Totally.
That's one.
Yep.
I mean, but I was very disciplined in the same way even before I had those responsibilities. So I just think of the big picture, think of the big goal, and just try to go get it. It's like, I always put this in soccer terms. It's the 87th minute. You see the coach stand up. He's going to make a substitution. So even though you're not feeling the best, you got to go get it. Make that extra sprint, make that extra tackle.
Yeah, that rule of one more. Make one more phone call, do the one more email, one more, because that's a compounding mechanism to get you to that next level, to hit the goals, to get the rewards, to do the big things and help people and really provide value for your customers or your clients or the services that you're providing. When you do those little things that mean everything, that's how business can change. I think.
I love the way you put it. Effort compounds.
Yeah.
That's I never heard that. That's very good.
Everything compounds, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. If you're overspending, that will compound as you make more money. If you're being a diligent saver, that may compound over time because you're saving. But it has to have a value for your life and customized for you and your own life. That's, for me, the name of the game.
Plug retires you decide.
Yes. That's going to wrap up the show, actually. We're right at the end of our segment here. Adrian, you're incredible. Would love to have you on again. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central, for a new show of the Retire As You Desire TV show.